Hi, welcome. I thought I'd do a video that requires no editing. It's just a sit down one because I can't be bothered. But I haven't done a video since December. So we're doing one now, and I'm talking about some tips for beginner artists, or just artists in general, that I feel you should know. As someone who's been drawing for about 6 years now, I've picked up some things along the way that I think are quite useful. So today, I'm going to show you them. If I look over to the side, I'm looking at my notes. I made notes, how wonderful. The first one is that you don't need loads of supplies. This is what I've been thinking about as I've been painting like today, is that you don't need loads of supplies. The first one I thought of was paints. You need one set of paints. I have so many different paints and stuff, and I don't really need all the different sets, because if I want different shades, I just mix the colours from the set. I did a whole painting, this painting here, with the 3 primary colours, cyan, yellow, magenta, black and white, this whole thing, and it turned out really good. So you don't need that many, and it's fine. Paintbrushes, I have too many. This is my jar of paintbrushes. Isn't it lovely? I don't use any of them. I obviously have used some of them, but a lot of them appear unused. Like this one I've used maybe once my entire life. That's my Bob Ross brush, because that's the same size as the big one he uses. This is the one I've been using recently. I've only used this one. I have a couple that are in my bathroom and drying, but I don't really use them. I have these fat ones for Mod Podge, because Mod Podge really ruins your brushes, so I just use old ones for that. But honestly, you don't need this many. You need maybe one set of paintbrushes for the variety. So, you know. I just find that I don't use a lot of them, and they take up a lot of space on my shelf. And I have another set that are really long and don't fit under my shelf, and it's just a nightmare. Pencils, for drawing, you maybe need 1 or 2 mechanical pencils that you can refill if you use those. If you want to use the art pencils, the different HB, 2B, 2H, etc., you don't really need them. Personally, I don't really use a lot of the different ones when I do pencil drawings, but you can. But you only need one set of them. I have 2 sets and I never use them. So, and for just regular pencils, you only need a few. I have too many. Genuinely have too many art things, and I don't know what to do with them. It's kind of ridiculous. Same goes for colouring pencils. I have too many colouring pencils, and most of them are quite crap. I have 1 set of regular colouring pencils and 1 set of skin tones, which you technically don't need either. So yeah, that's just sort of stuff you don't really need loads of. The second one is about how to draw books. They're not very good. I have a few in my shelf, and let me just say, I barely use them. There's 2 that I use the most, and they're quite old. My grandpa gave me them. This one has got different hands in it, which is quite useful for different hands. Hands are hard, but you can just look at your own hands a lot of the time. So I don't really need it. And this other one is quite old, and it tells you how to draw horses, because horses are really difficult. And even then, I still don't find it that useful. So you don't really need it. If you're like, oh, but I can't draw this certain thing, you'll figure it out over time. You will figure out how to draw it. It takes time, it takes practice. That's just how art works. You'll learn. And that leads nicely on to references are your best friend. Pinterest is a great resource for references, for looking at pictures. It's better than the internet, because I feel like the Pinterest algorithm kind of understands people more and knows what you're searching for. So if you search something up, you're going to get better results on Pinterest than on Google. You should never copy a reference exactly. It's a reference for a reason. You're using it as a sort of base for your idea. You don't want to copy it exactly. If you're doing a life drawing, that's slightly different, because the whole point is to copy it exactly. But I don't really do life drawings, I do cartoons, so it's just a reference. You use it and be like, oh, I want it to look mostly like that, or sort of like that. That's basically how I view it. Another one that I found quite recently was to do with your paint water. Now, if you're like me and use acrylic paints, you'll probably know that they're made of plastic. The paint is made of plastic, that's why it gets like all tacky, you can peel it off your palettes and stuff. But your paint water will get pretty bad after a while. Don't pour it down the sink because there's tiny plastic particles in there and stuff that come off your brush when you wash it in the water. So what you can do is let the water evaporate. This will take days or weeks. I personally haven't tried it before. I'm trying it for the first time and it's quite exciting. And the paint will all be left behind and you can just like put that safely in the bin or like keep it. What I'm going to do is keep it in this jar that's going to have paint bits in it. I've already got a few because I thought it'd be a cool idea to see all the different colours I use. It's called Paint Bits 1 because that'll fill up eventually. But yeah, let your paint water evaporate. Don't pour it in the sink and that'll go down the drain and just get into the water, and it's just, you don't want plastic in the water generally. Not a good idea. The next one is on keeping a sketchbook. I have my sketchbook in front of me. This is my current one. It's all green to challenge myself to do green things. I think sketchbooks are a great idea. I think I went through one. It was my very first one, but I don't count it as my first sketchbook because I didn't really know it was a sketchbook when I used it. And then I used paper for a long time. Single bits of paper are a nightmare. I have multiple folders on my shelf, like big binders of art, and they're quite annoying to organise and look through, and sketchbooks are better because they might also take up space, but you can fit a lot more art into that space through the pages and stuff, and it keeps it better organised chronologically, in my opinion, if you like to keep things organised like that. I find that with my art folders, there's no real order to it. There's some order where you can see it go from like oldest art to newest art, but it's not in an exact order because I never kept it in an exact order. So they're quite messy for me, and I just don't really like them. Sketchbooks do keep you quite organised. Also, your sketchbooks don't have to be expensive. It really annoys me when you see people buying those £20 Moleskine sketchbooks and they look immaculate and lovely. Instagram sketchbooks. No, stop it. That's so annoying. Expensive sketchbooks, just... I bought a sketchbook for £1 in Hobbycraft and I filled it up in like a few weeks. Quite messy. And I actually really like that sketchbook. It's one of my favourites, my third sketchbook, and I quite like it, and it wasn't expensive. And all you need is a thing of blank paper. It can be any shape, any size. Just the cheaper the sketchbook, sometimes the better. If you are using heavier materials like alcohol markers, you might want to invest in a sketchbook designed for that, because of course not all papers would be suited to things. But I've been using acrylic paint on these pages to draw on top of, and this is like supposed to be handmade paper, and it's quite thin, but the acrylic paint is taken to it alright. So honestly, you don't have to spend loads of money on a sketchbook. And also, I've said this, it doesn't have to be neat and tidy. My sketchbooks are a mess. There is drawings where it's just this cat Susan that I created, and they're not great. Look, terrible mushrooms. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be amazing and immaculate. And then the last tip that I have is anything can be a paint palette. It annoys me when you see these fancy paint palettes and stuff. Anything can be a palette. I have so many things I've been using as palettes. This is my first lid palette. It's on some old pickled onion lid because it smells like that. Personally, I'm throwing this one out because I can't peel the paint off it easily. I've already tried it today and it doesn't come off very well, so that's going in my bin. But you can use any lids. This is from an ice cream brand. You can't really see this. Oh, there you go. And it's quite messy, but it dries and you can use paint on top of it. I have another one of those. This is from like the gummy pizzas. That works too. Pringles lids, they work as well. This one has had the paint peeled off it. I do have another jar lid here, but I doubt I'll use it. I'm not sure. I can't get the Pringles lid out of it though. And then like plastic pots as well from things. I think one of these might be a lid, but I'm not sure. You can also use fruit holders. These were for Golden Kiwi. and you just put the paint in them. It doesn't have to peel off, it's just more satisfying when you can peel all the paint off after like using it for a while. But anything can be a palette. It doesn't have to be anything plastic. It can be a bit of cardboard you can use as a palette and put paint on it. You could probably use your arm, but I wouldn't recommend that, that's quite messy. You can even use the table as a paint palette, as long as like you're allowed to put paint on it or you have a mat on top like I do. Anything can be a palette. You don't have to spend money on a palette with sections. If it helps you to have different sections on your palette, you can buy one. There's no stopping you. But personally, I don't choose to use a paint palette designed for paint because that just takes more time. So yeah, that's the video. It's quite short, but I just wanted to give some art tips for other artists because I know some people are like, I don't know what to do a lot of the time or need some sort of guidance, and I've been drawing a while and some things just annoy me. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that somehow, and I'll see you in the next one, which will probably be a sketchbook tour because it's been almost 6 months since my last one and I'm giving it a 6-month break so that I don't run out of sketchbooks to tour, etc. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Bye!